Today we're going to learn how to dodge and burn in Photoshop to really transform your portraits drastically and add depth and dimension to it. Right from what is dodging and burning to where it exactly fits in your workflow, we're going to discuss various techniques to do it. Also, I don't want to leave you hanging, so I'm going to be giving you links of the tutorials of the things that you need to do before dodging and burning and also the things that you need to do after dodging and burning. So without any further ado, let's get started. This video is divided into sections, so if you want to go ahead and skip to any section, you can use these timestamps. So here we are in Photoshop, and if you want to go ahead and download this photo, check the links in the description. So this is the original photo. I went ahead and removed the blemishes. Links to all of the tutorials are in the description below. So there's a tutorial about removing blemishes. There's also a tip on beauty retouching when it comes to removing blemishes. Okay. Then I applied a little bit of frequency separation and did some advanced skin retouching, and have a look. This is what we did. If you want to go ahead and check that out, there are 2 or 3 tutorials on that. Links are already there in the description. Then as you can see, there was a green color cast right over there, and on top of her eye. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but I did a little bit of color correction and removed those, and I added some blues, so you'll see. So this is removing the green color cast. I'll just go ahead and turn that on. Have a look. It removes the green and turns that a little bit magenta, and I removed the overall yellow by increasing the blues, and then a little bit small corrections. If I turn that on, have a look. This area is corrected. Hairs are removed. You can do that beforehand too, but I forgot to do it, so I did it later. Okay, now it's time for us to dodge and burn. Now after dodging and burning, you can apply global effects like color effects or filters or color lookup tables or whatever you like, but that's after dodging and burning. Okay, so let's apply dodging and burning after you have corrected the face by removing the blemishes, frequency separation, color correction of just the skin, and then the small corrections. And after we do all of this, it's time for us to do dodging and burning. Now you can go ahead and download this complete PSD as a starting point. I'm making it available for you to download with all of the steps done so that you can open up and see what's going on inside it. That will help you understand these processes apart from the tutorials as well. Okay, now first of all, let's discuss what is dodging and burning. Simply, dodging and burning is brightening and darkening particular areas of the image, in this case the face, to add depth and dimension to it. In other words, I've explained it earlier. Let's think of it in terms of a circle. Suppose we have a circle full of gray. Now it's a 2D flat circle right over there, just like that. Now, if I brighten one area and darken the other, what does it become? It becomes a sphere. It has a dimension to it. So that is what dodging and burning is, and that is the objective of dodging and burning, to add dimension. Now, the process is this. Any area which is protruding in the direction of light has to be brightened. Any area which is facing away from the direction of light has to be darkened. So in the case of this sphere, this area was facing in the direction of light, so this area was brightened, and the opposite area is facing away, so that was darkened. Remember, dodging is brightening, burning is darkening. If you cannot remember, just remember it this way. Burning makes things darker. Sometimes if you burn wood, it makes it a little darker, right? So burning is darkening and dodging is brightening. Now there are several techniques to do dodging and burning. You can simply go ahead and create a new layer. Take the brush, make sure the foreground and the background colors are black and white. You can press D to reset the swatches to black and white, and then just simply zoom in, change the blend mode of this one from normal to overlay or soft light, whichever is your favorite. Soft light is simply the mild version of overlay. So let's go ahead and select soft light and take the brush, decrease the flow to 2%, and simply paint black on the areas that you want to darken and white on the areas that you want to brighten, just like this. Suppose you want to bring out the nose, so you will just paint like this, probably like that. Now this is too much, I'm just showing you what can be done. And then if you want to brighten this particular area, paint that in white like that. And that's how you bring out the nose and decrease the overall opacity. Just like this, have a look, before, after, before, after. So that's something you can do. Another way is adding a gray layer. Let's go ahead and delete that. It's just the same thing. Press Ctrl-Shift-N, Command-Shift-N, and then change the blend mode of this one from normal to overlay or soft light, whichever you like. Let's choose soft light and make sure you check fill with soft light neutral color and hit OK. Now, as you can see, this layer is painted completely, totally in gray. But you cannot see gray. Why? Because soft light and overlay are the blend modes which delete everything which is 50% gray. Okay. Now you can go ahead and paint black and white. It's just the same thing. We are painting white right now. You can paint black. It's just the same thing. All right. So I prefer, if you're using this method, I prefer painting on a blank layer, but you can use the gray layer as well. Depends upon your choice. Now, another method which we're going to be using in this example is using curves. This is my personal favorite. You can use those methods also, but I don't know. I just like those methods because of the flexibility and the non-destructive qualities of it. So let's do curves. So how do we do curves? Create an adjustment layer called curves, as simple as that. Now take it down. We are burning right now. Take it down just like this, not too much. Just like this, and invert the mask. Make sure the mask is selected, invert it, press Ctrl or Command I. Now make 3 or 4 copies of it. Make 3, press Ctrl or Command J again. Okay, so we made the copies by holding the Ctrl and pressing J twice or thrice depending upon the number of copies that you want to make. If you're using a Mac, that would be Command J. Why did we make 2 or 3 copies beforehand? We made those because you want to target different areas separately. Okay, so you might think, okay, if we work on one and then make a copy of it, you will be extending the process because you'll be already creating a mask and then copying it, then removing the mask. It's better to make 2 or 3 layers beforehand. Okay, you'll understand why. Let's select the first one. Make sure you select the mask. Take the brush. Make sure the foreground color is white. Remember, black hides, white shows up. Black conceals, white reveals. Darken the areas which are facing away from the light or are already darker. Okay, so take the brush, make sure the foreground color is white so that where we paint white, this will be visible. And we paint slowly and gradually. Decrease the flow to 1%. Now let me give you a tip. Sometimes when you dodge and burn, for example, we are bringing out the nose, we are dodging and burning. It's looking pretty good. Okay. It's looking pretty good right over there, but let's decrease the opacity. It's pretty good, amazing. But if you zoom out, as you see, it's looking pretty bad. It's looking very bad. She's looking like a joker. We don't want that to happen. So let me give you a tip. Let's go back by holding Ctrl-Alt-Z, Command-Option-Z if you're using a Mac, or Z, however you pronounce it, depends upon the country that you live in. Okay, now go to Windows. Okay, arrange, new window for dodging and burning PSD. It will make a copy window. It's the same thing. It's the same document, just another copy appearance. Now go to Window, Arrange, to Up, Vertical, just like this. Now this is zoomed out. This one is completely zoomed out like this. Let's zoom in a little bit. And this one is completely zoomed in. Now, when you paint on this one, you will see a zoomed out version on this side, which is very important when it comes to dodging and burning. Let's zoom out just a little more. Okay, now if you come back to this document and paint on this one, for example, if you want to make it a little darker, just like this, have a look. This is going to be visible on that one. So it helps, really helps to keep a check. All right, let's start painting. Now at any point, if you think the curves is too much, you can open up the properties and take it a little up like that. Okay, let's get back to the curves. I think we have done too much. Press X to toggle between black and the white and paint out the extra areas. Similarly on the other side, remember, don't do too much. You can always see the zoomed out version right over there. Turn off and on to see the effect. Okay, so let's zoom this in a little bit so that you have a look at the better view. So similarly, just go ahead and paint this area of the nose. I'm not going to bore you with the complete process. I'm going to show you the final result. I just want to show you a couple of versions. Right now, as you can see, in the zoomed in version, it's looking perfect. It's looking marvelous. But in the zoomed out version, this is looking pretty bad, very bad. Have a look, it's looking very bad. So we need to correct that. Let's work on it a little bit. And then what we're going to do, we're going to turn the brush color to black and remove the extra. Have a look, before, after, it's pretty good, not bad. Before, after, it's good, I like it. Before, after, pretty good. Now let's do the lower bottom of the nose. Now in this area, I like the shaded effect. Zoomed out area, it looks completely strange. So it's very essential that you do this step. This one is zoomed out, that one is zoomed in. We're gonna correct that. Don't worry about it so much. Okay, that's pretty good. Take the brush and change the color to black and let's erase those extras. Okay, the nose is looking pretty good. Have a look, before, after, before, after. Amazing, isn't it? Now, let's decrease the overall opacity because we always go a little overboard. Let's decrease it to 0 and slowly and gradually let's increase it. Let's 89 or 90 is fine. Because we kept a watch over here, we did it very accurately. We didn't have to decrease the opacity so much. So that's a great advantage of keeping a watch by zooming it out on one window and zooming it in on the other one. Now let's work on the second. See, that's the advantage. If you just worked on this one, you would have to make a copy, delete the mask, and then work on it. So it was a mess. So that's why I asked you to make 2 or 3 copies in the beginning. So select this mask. Let's take it a little up like that as we saw in the previous one. This is a light skin. Okay. And you're gonna paint on the cheek this time with white. Let's move this one as well to the cheek. If you have a bigger screen, better. You can see more. Make sure you bring up the cheekbones and stuff. You can do this with a tablet, but you can also totally do this with a mouse. I'm right now using a mouse. And the reason why I use a mouse, because I want to show you that it can be done. The tablet shouldn't be an excuse for you to not get started or do advanced retouching, right? You can get started with a mouse. It's not required for you to get started. Yes, but it does save you a lot of time and it makes your process much easier. I will say that, but that shouldn't be an excuse. In every tutorial that I've recorded, I've used a mouse or even a trackpad, right? So you can get started with anything. Have a look before, after. Now let's change the color to black and delete the extras. Have a look at the before and after, before, after. We need to paint a little bit over here with white. Before, after. Okay. Now it's time for us to decrease the opacity because that is very essential. Let's increase it little by little like that. I guess 92 is fine because we did a perfect job. We looked on the zoomed out area, and we did the perfect opacity. But I still think there's an area right over there which needs a little bit of correction. So we'll just focus on that particular area. And the great part about this is that you can switch to the other document and just burn on that particular area, which you can see over there, but you cannot see in that area. See? Corrected, very easily corrected, no problem. Corrected, right? So we can get back to this one and fine-tune it, fine-tune the same thing. It was very easy to do. So let's get back to this one this document and correct it even more by painting over there with white. That was easy, wasn't it? That was very, very easy to do. Have a look. Pretty nice. And sometimes what you might want to do, you might want to open the mask and see where it's too bright, where it's too dark, and you can also go ahead and increase the feather of the mask if you want to. So I'll just go ahead and increase it to 28 pixels. That's fine. Let's go back and see whether that's looking great. That is great. Now let's try decreasing the opacity. 95. I'll stay at 100. That's fine for me. Select all of these three by selecting the first one, hold the shift and select the last curves adjustment layer. It will select everything in the row. Press Ctrl or Command G. And then let's have a look. Before, after. Makes an amazing difference. Makes the portrait pop. Alright? Before, after. Other areas are remaining. Let's use this one for the right cheek. Let's make a copy of that again for other areas. Now let's work on it. Let's increase the brightness just a little bit to this one, to this value, and select the mask. Then let's work on this area. I like it. Let's have a look. Before, after. Amazing dimension right over there. I think we need to add a little more dimension to the nose from this side. Let's get back to the nose one. I think this one was that. Work on the different areas separately. It really helps. I think now that's fine. It's looking pretty good. Have a look. Before, after. It's great. And by the way, I just wanted to add a very important thing right now. Let's add it. Let's decrease the opacity. Now I'm thinking it's too much. Let's make it 75. Okay. It's always essential to get back after a break and look at the image. Sometimes it happens as when you get back after a break, you look at your image, what was I doing? What the heck was I doing? Then you just go ahead and reduce the opacity or change the color or whatever is necessary. When it comes to dodging and burning, the objective is not just limited to adding dimension. You can also remove any depression or extrusion using dodging and burning. For example, there are wrinkles in your face. Not in your face, but in your subject's face. But suppose there is, okay, wrinkles right over there and it's depressed inside, getting inside. So you can brighten that thing up and bring it forward, okay? Or suppose an area is protruding, just like this, bulging. You can darken the highlight of it and get it inside. Okay. You can also use dodging and burning in that way too. If there is any area that we want to push in this image, we can look through it. For example, the smile lines are something which you want to push in and make her really smile and exaggerate her expressions. So we can darken it even more right over here a little bit. See how it accentuates her smile? Let's zoom in this one. It will show you. Have a look at this. It really makes her smile much better. Can make this one right over there as well. So we are depressing it inside. Have a look what a difference it makes before, after. Smiling, if you want to exaggerate a smile, you don't have to apply liquify and make it just like this. It looks fake. Just exaggerate the smile lines. And the smile lines are something which you don't want to remove while you are removing the wrinkles. Now, it is too much. We can always go ahead and decrease the opacity like that. Now, that's wonderful. Have a look at the overall before and after, before, after. We can work on different areas. But before we do, I'm going to show you dodging first, and then I'm going to show you the final result. Let's make a group of all of this. By selecting the first one, hold the shift key, select the last one, press Ctrl or Command G. Okay. Now let's dodge. What does dodging mean? Brightening. Create a curves adjustment layer and then do just the opposite. Take it up like that. Okay. And then Ctrl or Command I. Simply take the brush and brighten the areas which are facing in the direction of light or the areas that you want to protrude. Okay. So in this case, we'll just paint on the nose slowly and gradually. Make sure to keep a check on the right hand side of the image. too much. We'll just have a look at the before and after. So this is the before, this is the after. Okay, this is too much. We'll go ahead and decrease the opacity like that. And I pretty much like it. I'll just paint black in a couple of areas. Okay, now we are ready. Before, after. You can also use it to bring up. Let's increase it. Okay, that's great. The cheekbones. Let's create one more. Now, here is the disadvantage, and that is why I asked you, no matter what you're doing, dodging and burning, make several copies of it. Now we will have to create the curves again, take it all up again, and it's going to be a hectic process. And if you want to copy it, you can copy it by pressing Ctrl or Command J. You will have to just again delete the mask by pressing Ctrl or Command A, select all, then make sure the foreground color is black, and then press Alt backspace, Option delete if you're using a Mac, and then fill it with black completely. Then press Ctrl or Command D. And you want to go through that complete process. So it's better to make a couple of copies. Now that we are here, make copies, 2-3 copies, and then let's get back to this one. It's always a good practice to name them. So this was nose, so let's name it nose, and in the other one too, make a good habit of naming all of those so that we can work on the colors later. We're gonna discuss it later. Okay, so nose. Now let's work on the cheek. You can go really in depth and work on the eyes. Now, as I told you before, you can also use dodging and burning to remove depressions. Okay, so here you can paint a little white to remove the depression under the eye. Let's move it. It's pretty good. Before, after, it's looking great. Let's come back to this one. I personally do this. I paint a little extra and then I remove it with black. Okay, so I just did the same thing when we were doing the burning. Now, as you can see, I can see problems here, but I cannot see problems there. So I'll get into this one and then just solve those problems like that. Okay, have a look. Before, after, before, after. That's great. Now let's try increasing the opacity, then decreasing it. 60. Because the opacity of this one was decreased, we have to again increase the opacity of every 1 to 100 again. So make copies first. That's how you do the cheek. We'll do the other cheek, and then we'll move forward and look after the color. You can go really in depth. Let's decrease the opacity. Okay, let's have a look at the overall before and after. If I just zoom out on this one a little bit, and you can always move this like that, and before, after, before, after. That does make a ton of difference. Now, as you see, it's too much. The cheeks are too bright. Let's make it a little darker over here. Let's make this cheek too a little darker like that. Now, have a look at the overall before, after. I can make a group of all of these and name it what? Dodging. Oops, the caps lock is on, seems. And this one, burning. Okay, so there's the burning, there's the dodging. Now, there are other places that you need to dodge and burn, like the head and the chin, but I'm just showing you a couple of areas. You can also go ahead and do pretty specific areas like eyes. So that's the basic process, and you can follow along with that. Now, one essential tip to note here. When you're doing dodging and burning, sometimes you're gonna see something called color shifts. We have dodged and burned very little, but if you do it too much, if you have to do it too much, for example, in this nose one, I think this was the nose. Let's check. Yes. So in this, for example, you had to make it more darker like that. You had to select the mask and then paint it even more, just like that. And if you see that there's a change in color and this color is not looking great over there, so here's what you can do. Now, here's the tip. Create a hue saturation adjustment layer. Click on this adjustment layer icon and choose hue saturation. Now we need to clip it to just this area. How do we clip it? Just click on this button. It creates a clipping mask. Or one other way of doing this is by holding the Alt or Option and clicking on the line between these, and then work on the hue make it, see, it looks better now. Make it a little more yellowish, decrease the saturation a bit, and then work on the lightness. That's fine. I think I decreased the saturation very much, and that's how you can work on it. So before, after, a little more like that, and you get the idea. But in this one, we don't need to work on that, but sometimes you do. So for those times, this is the way to correct color shifts. For example, in the cheeks, as you can see, it's too much of red. And that's looking good. If that's not looking good to you, you can simply go ahead and add a hue saturation adjustment layer, clip it to that, and decrease the saturation like that. Now it's looking much more natural, but I liked the red. Have a look before, after. Okay, decrease saturation, and you can do that with separate areas separately, and that's the best part about it. And that's why I asked you to create separate layers. If you want to do it all at once, create one, but if you want to be specific and take your time to do it and come out with a really great result, make it separately. Now let me give you a quick tip that will make your dodging and burning process faster and easier. But the trade-off here is that you will lose control just a little bit. Now this is helpful especially if you're a beginner, and also even if you're not a beginner and you're looking for quick dodging and burning, this is going to be helpful. So here's how it goes. Let's turn off these dodging and burning, the traditional ones. Let's create new curves adjustment layer, take it down, and just paint on the dark areas. You don't have to be super accurate about this. Select the mask, Control or Command I. Okay, take the brush and simply paint. Don't have to be accurate, just paint like that. Okay, no accuracy required. For example, you painted on the cheek. That's looking pretty good right over there. Okay, we painted on these particular areas. Now, when we burn, we are burning right now. We want to make sure sometimes, not all the time, sometimes we want to make sure we are painting on just the areas which are already dark. We can achieve that. We have obviously painted a little extra. We can achieve that using Blend If. We did it very quickly, right? Double click on the right hand side of the layer. Okay, now let's have a look. Take this slider of the underlying layer from right to left. That will remove the bright areas of the underlying layer or the combined effect of the layers beneath it, which is the image, from this current layer. So the bright areas of the layer which is beneath it from this particular layer. So if you take it, it removes the bright areas, right? As you can see, very nice defined edge, but this is very harsh. So we're gonna make it smooth by holding the Alt or Option key. Click on the slider, this will separate that and separate that to make it smooth, just like this. This will make sure that you're painting on just the dark areas, like that. Okay, so you can do this, and this will really help you make amazing dodging and burning. But if you're working on depressions or creating a depression or doing things like removing eye bags or taking it forward, you cannot do it with this one, because it does not allow you to paint on the dark or the bright areas depending upon whether you're dodging or burning. For example, in this case, just for example, if I want to darken a bright area, I cannot do that. It just will not allow me. So for example, if I select the mask, take the brush, select this, and if I try to darken it, if I increase the flow and try to darken it even more, it just won't darken that particular area. It just won't. There's a limit. If you go ahead to this, if you double click on this one, and if you remove this effect, see, it's darkening now. But if you apply this effect like that, and if you take it, it just won't paint on the bright area. Similarly with dodging. So suppose you're dodging, let's go ahead and delete this curves adjustment layer. We don't want it. So if you're dodging, let's create a curves, take it up like that, and Control or Command I. If you want to remove this dark area under the eye, take the brush and paint that area with white. It's too much, but I'm showing you just for an example. And if you want to apply that, and this time you do just the opposite because it's dodging, like that, it just won't work. It's just going away from the dark areas. See, it's the complete opposite of what we want. So there's a limitation, but you can apply this technique as well. So that's how you dodge and burn in Photoshop. Have a look at the before and after, complete before and after. So this is the before, this is the after. And after dodging and burning, you can apply color effects. Probably I'll increase the vibrance a little bit. So I'll just click on this adjustment layer icon and click on vibrance and increase the complete vibrance of the image. Now it adds some color to the photo. Let's close this document and this one as the main document. You can also apply LUTs and other stuff. Now this is not completely dodged and burned. Let me show you the complete result. So this is the before and this is the after. So that's how we dodge and burn in Photoshop. There are tons of ways of doing it, but the concept remains one. What is the concept? Dodging is brightening, burning is darkening. Dodging and burning is brightening and darkening particular areas of the image to add dimension to it. Dodging and burning is also used to work on protrusions and depressions. Depressions like eye bags, or there's a deep depression over there, you need to work on it, so you can brighten those areas. If there's a protrusion like bulging out something, you can just darken those areas. In this video, we primarily used curves to do it, so we created a curves adjustment layer, took it a little down for burning, took it up for dodging, created a negative mask, and painted using white as a foreground color and black to tweak it. You got the idea. Then we used hue saturation adjustment layer to correct the color. And that's pretty much it. It's not always required to use the hue saturation adjustment layer, but if you want, if you require it, if it's increasing the saturation, you can control it by using that adjustment layer. I hope this video helped, and if it did, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe. Ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss a thing. I would like to take this moment to thank all these nice people for supporting this channel on Patreon and making this episode possible. Thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you guys in my next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.